Hello and welcome to this tutorial showing you how to use Google Slides to build collaboration. In this tutorial, we'll talk about a variety of ways that you can use Google Slides with your students and have them collaborate, whether that's each person using it individually but in a group setting, or students working in pairs or small groups, yet making their work available to everyone, so to speak. All right, let's jump in. One of the things I want to share with you first is that when you are sharing a Google Slide with students and giving them permission to edit, you may want to go to the share settings and select the box that says prevent editors from changing access and adding new people. This will prevent students from uh, changing the sharing settings or removing other students from that uh, document, from that Google Slide document. It will also prevent them from adding students from other classes that shouldn't be in that slide deck. So think about that. If your class is great, they're on task, and there's not really any unruly students, this may not be necessary. But I can think back to at least one class of students that I had that if we had Google Docs at the time, I would have definitely checked this. All right, so let's take a look. Here are some creative ideas that you can use to collaborate, have your students collaborate using Google Slides, other than their traditional presentations. Think about having a glossary for your subject area. You could have one for each content area or just one big glossary with subsections in it. Sometimes it might be ideal to have each student create their own glossary. But to start out with, if you've never done a glossary before with students, I would suggest having a group or class glossary for math, a group or class glossary for ELA, social studies, for each subject area. And then once they get the idea of how you've created the class glossary, then maybe middle school and high school, it would be very easy for them to just start creating their own glossary and having that as a resource for them to use as they're studying for various assessments coming up, as well as just going deeper in the content. It could be that they do a collaborative story where a person is starting to write a story. Maybe you give them the topic or they choose a topic from your list. You might have a page that says there are certain requirements um, of their part of the story that they're writing. Maybe you have specific vocabulary you want them to use, or you have a specific grammar that you want them to be aware of. So it might be that you take maybe five, six, seven kids and put them in one Google slide, and they're going to create their own collaborative story. As one person finishes writing on their slide, the next person on the next slide would pick up the story where the previous person left off and continue the story, almost as if you were doing a collaborative story in a old school method where students wrote on a sheet of notebook paper and then passed it to the person behind them, and that person continued the story and then passed it to the person behind them, something like that. So everybody gets to be a part of a story, and yet everybody's expected to do certain writing requirements in there based on your standards, skills of review, and such. It might be that you want to do a picture dictionary. Right now, if students are working from home, it's a perfect ideal situation for them to create a picture dictionary because they can easily take pictures or easily have access to take pictures of items around their house or community that would fit the context and content that you're studying. For younger learners, this is great because you may be studying colors, numbers, or a variety of objects or just things to do around the house in which their parents could help them take pictures and identify those things and add to the Google slide. Doing a timeline is a great collaborative idea. This could easily be set up where um, so many students are assigned to one Google slide deck, and each student is given, say, a 10-year time period, or each person That group has to identify 5 highlights of that person's life, and then they're going to create a collaborative timeline. The first slide might show the whole timeline, and then each slide after that is going to take each event and do a close up of that event. Getting to know you is a great way to do this if it's the beginning of the year or you have new students that come in quite frequently. This could be where uh, the teacher has the one slide for the teacher with a photo and a little bit of information about themselves, and then each student is assigned a slide after that. They can put in their own photo or multiple photos of themselves and then tell a little bit about themselves. Maybe where they were born, what their favorite color or ice cream is, something interesting about them, and something maybe what they want to be when they grow up. And then the last idea for a collaborative uh, way of using Google Slides would be an assignment packet. This would be so easy to do in Google Slides. On the first slide, you as the teacher could record a video, or if you have older students, you could just have text there giving directions of what you want the students to do. And then the students go either creating their own slide, or you may have a slide already assigned to them where they post their own work to that slide deck. Now, typically this would be done in Google Classroom, but if you're not using Google Classroom or you want everybody's work to be a collection of work to make it easy for them to review, then doing it this way could be very easy. In this situation, it wouldn't be where you're, say, giving out everybody's work in the same 10 problems in math. This would be more of an example of you're talking about maybe acute, obtuse, and right angles, and you're having students uh, define it, uh, share some information about it, and then add some pictures to it. So their work, while they're all doing the same work, their products are going to look a little bit different, especially when it gets to the picture. It could be also that maybe in science you're talking about cycles. And so every student on their slide is going to decide on what life cycle or what cycle they are going to identify. You might give them some information of where to find different cycles, or you might have them encourage them to ask their parents. One student on his slide deck may do the life cycle of a frog. Another student on his might do the life cycle of a plant, a life cycle of a bird, or whatever it happens to be. So while they're all talking about cycles, each student's slide may be somewhat different. But because you have it in a Google slide deck, it makes it very easy for them to collaboratively look at each other's work and get a deeper understanding of the content. All right, let's now take a look at some specifics that you might need to know or that could help as you do your slide deck with your student. So I'm going to exit the presentation mode here, and we'll see that on this next slide, I've got as if it's a page in a glossary. So there's the term right angle. I've given a definition of it, and then maybe I've used it in a sentence. So maybe for your students, you tell them in the glossary they have to identify the word or phrase, give a definition, give a sentence, and give at least 2 examples. So you'll see here I put in 2 different pictures, and to clarify where the right angle is, I use the line tool to do the red line there to show where that angle happens to be. Now, one of the things you want to do in a glossary, it's not mandatory, but it does make it fancier and makes it nicer, so to speak, would be link the uh, index page of the words to the actual page it goes to. So instead of always having to scroll through to get to a certain page, they can just click on a link and it'll jump them there. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'll highlight the word glossary, and we'll play like this happens to be a math glossary, and I've got a variety of words already listed, but I want to link this to the exact page of the glossary. Maybe we'll say this word and pretend is right angle. So I've highlighted the word, And then I'm going to go up to Insert, come down to Link. I cannot see it right there, so my photo's in the way, so I'm just going to click on the link over here on the menu. And then notice, normally I would paste a URL here, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Slides in this presentation because we want to link it to a specific slide. So I'm going to go to, and notice at the beginning it's next slide, previous slide, first slide, first slide, last slide. Well, it's not one of those, but I do want to go to the slide 4, right angle. So I'll choose that and I'll click Apply. And now notice it looks like a link. So anytime I click that, whether I'm in presentation view or just editing view, it's going to give me that link. I can click on it and it will take me to that slide. Now let's think about how do we click to go back to the glossary. Well, what I recommend is finding a graphic that you can put on each of the definition slides that's going to take you back to the glossary. The nice thing is once you set up this image once, you can just copy and paste it to all the slides because it's going to be going back. All of them will be going back to that title slide or the index slide. So in a similar fashion, I've selected the image. I'm going to click on the link icon and I don't want to paste a URL. I want to go back to the collaborative ideas page, which will play like is the index page of glossary terms. All right. And so now let's go to this page and we'll look at it in presentation view. I mouse over the word and it's going to take me to that specific page for that word. I've looked at the examples, I've read the definition of the sentence, and now I can easily go back by mousing over that return icon that I've linked to the index page. Click on it, and it takes me back to the collaborative ideas. All right, super simple. You may have to set that up the first time for the students, but then after that, they're easily going to catch on and create their own. Let's take a look at another page. So the assignment packet. This would be where you could easily record a video, whatever recording device you want to use, whether it's your phone or whether it's on your Chromebook or laptop, and then drop your video here. And then with that, students would either create their own slide to go after yours, or you would already have slides created. Now, the easiest thing here would be to initially have them work in groups of 2. Maybe they're working on a diagramming. So one person is going to draw the concept and the other person is going to put the words and draw arrows of where that part is. So you might be talking about maybe the respiratory system or the migration of population from east to west in America. Well, the first person can draw the picture either in Google Drawings or Google Slides, or they could do it old-fashioned, draw it on paper, take a picture, and put it there on the slide. And then the other person can put the words that go with it and draw the arrows. So this could be an easy collaborative way for students to start working together. Once they start working together like this, you may have them sometimes work individually or sometimes work in larger groups, such as 3, 4, or 5 students. The nice thing, as mentioned before, is that when you have students work in a collaborative manner in a Google slide deck, they can benefit from seeing what other students are doing. It could be even that if you do have it where you have maybe 3 problems on this initial assignment page, um, that each student is going to record themselves working out the problem and thinking aloud and then talking about it and then posting a video. Or they choose one of those 3 problems and do that if they don't do all 3 problems. So it can be an easy way for students to feel connected with other students, just like you would do in your classroom, as if one person went to the board and solved a problem, or you were looking at assignment packet and you had one person share out from their seat how they solved the problem. Hey, I hope these are some good ideas for you to think about how you can have students collaboratively work in Google Slides at this time. We have more resources for you. If you haven't already seen them, we encourage you to go to tcea.org/remote learning. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you've enjoyed this short tutorial on using slides to be collaborative with your students.